Hi everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Michaela Graziani, and I'm going into my second year of law school at Western Law, which is in London, Ontario. Today, on behalf of my team members, I'll be answering some of the questions that you guys sent us over Instagram not too long ago about what law school life is really like. So since this is our first official YouTube video, I think it's necessary to kind of tell you guys what we want to do with law school life and beyond and what our mission and vision is. Law School Life and Beyond was created to allow future law students to explore what law school life is really like by living vicariously through our writers and our team members and learning about their experiences in law school. As a team, we aim to provide those who may be contemplating law school with real-life stories throughout our journey, and we aim to be different in our approach. So since this is a Q&A video, I do find it necessary to give a little disclaimer before we jump into the questions. These answers are based on solely my own experiences and those of colleagues, friends, and peers. If you'd like other opinions, always feel free to contact lawyers, articling students, recruiters, or anyone else who may be involved with admissions at your desired school, and I am sure they'd be happy to help. Okay, so now that that's over with, let's jump into the questions. Okay, so the first question we got was, do law schools care about extracurriculars? So once again, I'm going to be speaking from my personal experience with extracurriculars and applying to law school. And I will mention that when you do get accepted into law school, they don't tell you why, they just tell you that you're accepted and you got accepted by the state. So you don't really know what got you in. You just know that you were the student that they're looking for and that you got in and you can celebrate. But I would say yes to this question. I would say that law schools do want to see some extracurriculars on your resume when you apply. When you apply to Ontario law schools, there is a section where you can input your job experiences and any extracurricular experience that you have. So I do think it is important to at least have something to put there. But then again, it's not universal. Every law school is different and they are looking at students in a holistic sense. So if you don't have extracurriculars, it's not the final nail in the coffin, but I would say you should get involved in at least something that you're passionate about. So if you're not involved in any extracurricular activities, I wouldn't be so worried because it's not too late. You can always get involved in something. If you're still completing your undergraduate career, I would consider going to your school's club fair. That's where I found two of the clubs that I actually joined and was able to move up into vice presidential positions within those clubs. So those were a great foot in the door, and you also get to meet great like-minded people and make friends in the process. If you're not completing your undergraduate degree or you're not in school currently, I would say get involved in some volunteer activities. Food banks and homeless shelters always need volunteers, and I'm sure they'd love to take you on, especially if you're interested in social justice. This is a great talking point in interviews, and this is great on your resume. Either way, when you volunteer or get involved in extracurricular activities, you're building skills and you're building experience, and that's always a great thing to have under your belt. The next question was, how do you make your personal statement unique? Or do you have any personal statement tips and advice? We actually got a lot of questions about personal statements, so I'll try and dive as deep into it as I can. I would definitely say the most important tip I can give anyone is to just be yourself as much as possible. So once again, my experience is from just an Ontario perspective. I only applied to law schools in Ontario, but I will say that each law school does have different prompts. So prompts for Western will be different than prompts for Queens, which just means that the questions that they're asking you to answer will be different. But I will say that most do follow the same format. Most will ask, where do you want to take your career? Or was there anything that happened during the year that might have affected your academic performance in any way? So one thing I did was I discussed where I wanted to take my career in a very big picture way. Don't limit yourself and really let them know what you want to do with your law degree. So as I mentioned before, most law schools do ask you if anything may have affected your academic performance during the school year, and they are asking you to kind of tell a little bit about yourself or reasons why you might not have performed as academically favorable as you would have if anything wasn't going on in your life. Now that question is optional. You don't have to fill that out when you're applying. It's not mandatory. Personally, I did answer that question and I did divulge into a little bit of the things that were occurring in my personal life. The year that I applied, 2 of my family members passed, and I did speak about that in my application, as obviously that will affect your academic performance. So I do think it's important, if you think that you have something to say or if you genuinely believe that something did affect your academic performance, you can always write it within your application, and I'm sure the schools will be more than understanding and would like to hear about your experience. So the one main tip I can give about writing your personal statement is to just authentically be yourself. So once again, speaking from my own personal experience, none of the schools that I applied to held interviews to be admitted into law school. So I think it's very important to be yourself when you're applying and to really let your personality shine through the page and shine through whatever you're writing, because that is the one chance you have to show them who you really are and to show them what your personality is like and why you'll be a great lawyer and why you want to go to law school. Another question we had was, what are some good resources that you recommend for first-year law students? Once again, personal experience, the best resources that I came into contact with were my peers, upper years, and professors. I know COVID's going to make the reality of law school look a lot different this year, but I would say if you are a first-year law student and you will be attending in-person classes, make it your mission to build relationships with those around you, whether that be other first-year students, upper year students, or your professors. I think it's very important to foster those relationships, especially with upper years and professors. They have gone through the process before and they know the questions that you're going to ask and they know the best answers to those questions. And it's also important to get close with the people in your program, or at least foster some type of relationship with the people in your program, because these are going to be the people that you're going to be working alongside in the future, hopefully. And they're all going through the same thing. They're going through the same stresses. Maybe a shy person, you may be wondering, how am I gonna make friends? How am I gonna be able to do this? I think the best way to do so is to get involved with some extracurriculars at your school. You're almost forced to be making relationships with those people that you're working alongside. You have a common denominator. You're both part of a certain group or a club, and you both have a common mission. So I think that is an easy way to build some relationships with people that do go to your school. Because once again, the answer to this question, they're the best resources you'll find. Okay, so the next question is something that I think all law students struggle with. Someone asked, how do you keep a good work-life balance? Now, this question's a little difficult because I think everyone has a different idea of what exactly work-life balance is, but for me personally, what helped me the most was to keep in contact with friends and family from home that were not involved in the legal field, so that I was able to talk about things outside of law school. I also think it's a good thing to get out and enjoy your social life. For example, at Western Law, every other Wednesday we had what was called a Denning, which was basically a bar night where all the law students can join together and socialize and have fun. That was always a great way to get out and meet other people from my program, and I always had a fun time. The last question was, is there anything I should know before going to law school? So I would say there's a lot. I would say definitely expect to work very, very hard. Expect for there to be some competition with your classmates. I know that most law schools operate on a B curve, which means that you're essentially graded against your classmates. So some people, not all, but some do get a little bit competitive with it. So expect there to be some natural, maybe fun competition with your classmates. I think it's important to know that there is a learning curve when you get into law school. I know that my first semester, I didn't really know what was going on. I was used to creative writing and my degree was in political science, so I was completely used to doing that type of work as I had been doing it for 4 years. And when you move into law school, you're thinking completely different, you're writing completely different, and you're learning completely different than what you're used to. It's a completely different environment and everyone's new to it, but people adjust at different rates than others. So I think it's important to not get down on yourself, but do know that there is a learning curve and you will experience some growing pains in the beginning, but it'll all be worth it in the end. Along with that comes obviously the reality that you will not be the smartest person in the room at all times. You will be surrounded by plenty of intelligent individuals who may challenge your ideas, and you need to be ready to be as confident as possible in your own skills that doesn't get you down. I would also say that one of the things that you can physically do to get yourself prepared for your first week or first month of law school is to fix your resume. I know personally, I'll admit right now, I did not fix up my resume before going into law school. In the first couple weeks of school, you were expected or you were invited to apply to certain clubs and to apply to clinics around the school. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not want to spend your first couple weeks of law school in your room fixing up your resume because that's something you could have done at home. So if you do have the time, I heavily suggest taking out a couple hours of your day to just fix up your resume, make sure it's all updated and ready to go. I'm sure that'll help you a lot along your first month of law school. Last but not least, I would say the single most important tip that I can personally give anyone who is going into their first year of law school is please start your outlines right away. So basically, if you don't know what an outline is a summary of all the cases that we studied throughout the year in a particular class. And at least at my law school, you were allowed to bring outlines into your exam. It is so important to have an accurate and complete outline ready to go. Another thing about outlines is that some people get outlines from upper years and try to get by writing exams with someone else's outline. I would suggest against that. At least personally for myself, I learn better when I'm actually writing and involving myself and engaging myself with the materials that I'm learning in class, and outlines really help you do that. But if you are someone that wants a little guidance, you can ask some upper years for their outlines, and most are happy to give them to you. But the important thing is, do not rely on those and only use them as a guide to how you want to prepare your own outline. That's for two reasons. One, you don't know if that person's entire outline is correct. You don't want to rely on that person to get a good grade in the class, because what if they're not correct? What if they got the ratio wrong? You'll never know unless you actually consult your own materials and consult your own notes. And two, you just learn better that way. I think everyone can agree you learn better when you actually involve yourself and engage with the material that you're learning in class and rewrite it into a concise form that you can study from and consult during your exam. All right, guys, I think I answered everyone's questions. Thank you so much to those who did submit questions. We are so happy to be able to help at least one person throughout this video. If you do have a question that I did not answer, you can just comment them down below or DM them to us on Instagram. I will link that down below as well. And we can always make a second video to make sure we're answering all of your questions. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.